Hey, this is Nightwave. Today, I want to start with a confession. Sometimes I just don't want to do anything. I mean, nothing. I just stare blankly at the screen. Inside my head, 15 tabs are open simultaneously. Each one is screaming in a different direction. You should create something new. Don't forget this idea. Why haven't you started yet? But I can't move. Everything felt like motivation until that moment, but now it's just noise. Does that sound familiar?
One day, when a psychologist told me, maybe you have ADHD, I resisted at first. Then I thought about it. Maybe it wasn't really an attention deficit. Maybe I just needed a different structure to focus. You see, classic planning methods, agendas, hourly schedules, didn't work for me. But that didn't make me lazy. It made me different. And if I could make peace with this difference, maybe this was my superpower. For most people, ADHD is perceived as just being unable to pay attention. But the truth is far more complex. For instance, I wake up in the morning with 1,000 ideas swirling in my head, but my hands just won't go to any of them. Or I'm perfectly focused on something, my phone rings, and hop, I find myself in a completely different universe. I used to feel so guilty about this, like I was lazy or undisciplined. But with time, I realized it's actually a power. Yes, a somewhat wild power that needs to be tamed, but a power nonetheless. So why do we feel burnt out when we try to create? Because we're not just creating. We're constantly trying to prove ourselves. Am I diligent enough? Am I productive enough? Others are faster, more organized, more successful than me. And after a while, creating becomes not a joy, but an obligation. Yet some minds are outside the lines. They create not by struggling, but by shining in their own rhythm. But we were always told to walk in a straight line. Maybe what you perceive as a lack of attention isn't a focus problem, but a filter problem. Meaning you can focus on everything simultaneously, and the world isn't ready for that.
So why do you leave things unfinished once you start them? Because the mind begins with excitement, but then we're expected to be systematic, to continue at the same pace, in the same order, with the same motivation every day. But some creative minds aren't like that. We fall in love with one idea, then another, then another. This isn't inconsistency. This is actually a map, a pattern that emerges when you connect seemingly disconnected points. For me, the solution isn't about waking up at 6 a.m. and meditating like everyone else. It's more about finding my own system. After a while, I started setting challenges for myself. Today, I'll just work on this for 20 minutes. And once I start saying it's only for 20 minutes, I often find an hour has passed. But I had to commit to myself for just one day, just for that start. Or I open the notebook just for this title, I will finish. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a video, a piece of writing, a composition. It just needs to be finished. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it will be completed. Because finishing something means closing one of the hundreds of tabs open in my mind. And that tiny feeling of relief was liberating. I also began thinking of tasks as a starting goal rather than a finishing goal, because the hardest part is starting. Once you start, the rest usually follows. So, are you truly lazy, or do you just need guidance? Laziness is often portrayed as caring about nothing, but you actually care a lot. You just don't know where to begin. Maybe no one motivated you in the right way. Maybe you were always pushed from the wrong direction. Maybe you just haven't found your own compass yet. But this doesn't mean you're broken. It just means they haven't recognized your rhythm yet.
People generally associate ADHD only with children who struggle in school. But this mind doesn't disappear when you grow up. It just transforms. It constantly gives you 10 ideas at once. Everything seems incredibly brilliant and possible, but you can't embrace them all at once. And in the end, either they all stay up in the air or you can't start any of them. This is the breaking point. I learned to redirect this energy. I chose flow over perfection. Everything can be messy. Thoughts can be complex, but if just one of them, only one, truly resonates with your heart, then following that is enough. So why does wanting to start everything at once sabotage you? Because your mind is too fast and it wants to teleport everywhere at the same time, but your body is in one place. You decide to do something, you're just about to start, and your brain says, but you also had to do this, don't forget that. Then an internal panic begins, and finally, you do nothing. You get angry at yourself. But what's actually happening is this. Your brain isn't suited for classic planning systems. Your brain is like a radar. It scans a wide area, and you see this feature as an enemy, whereas it can be your friend. So is this attention deficit or a creative mind? The system tells you to focus, but what you call attention isn't a fixed light. It's more like a projector, moving, wandering, searching. And sometimes the brightest ideas come from precisely this search. But in schools, offices, and rules, this light is extinguished. They say, first learn to focus, but no one teaches you how to use that focus. One of the most wonderful aspects of ADHD is this. Your brain knows no bounds. I can connect seemingly unrelated ideas. This sometimes creates chaos, I admit. But when I'm making music, writing, designing, so many creative ideas come to me. This might be why I progress so quickly in music, because my brain is constantly thinking, how else could this be? And sometimes one idea gives birth to another. Everything is like dominoes. This chaotic but productive nature of the ADHD brain is what I love most about it. If you're also doing a creative job or thinking of doing one, this constantly thinking brain is actually your greatest advantage. Have you noticed this too? At night, everything is quieter. It's as if the world isn't expecting anything from you. Judging eyes are closed. Notifications are silent. You're alone with yourself. I always started creating at night. Perhaps because during the day we try so hard to be seen. At night, just existing is enough. And in this comfort, the folds of my mind open up more. The room is dark. The light comes from my screen. An idea, a sentence, a melody. Sometimes something that comes at 2 a.m. turns out to be the missing piece I've been looking for 10 days. They constantly told you to be quiet. They told you to focus on one thing, be organized, get in line. Yet, your mind structure isn't a straight road, it's like a labyrinth. But within that labyrinth, there are wonderful things. You make strange connections. You see patterns others don't. And sometimes, yes, you can forget something in 30 seconds. But then you get stuck on something no one has thought about for 3 days and produce a masterpiece. Initially, I didn't create this channel for people to listen. It was just to hear myself, to make space for my own inner voice. That's why this channel was born, Nightwave. It should feel like we're walking in a dimly lit space together. I'm talking, but you're also completing the sentences in your head. Sometimes we get stuck on a word together. Sometimes we fall silent. But even that silence conveys something. As I tried to understand my own brain, I realized my mind doesn't work in a linear fashion. It works in spirals. One idea gives birth to another, but not linearly. When I focus on one thought, 3 different ideas emerge alongside it. And yes, this is exhausting, but it's also creative. If I can learn to control it, this can be my fuel. That's why I no longer struggle. I don't fight with my mind. I dance with it. People think that someone who writes or creates regularly every day is incredibly disciplined. No, I'm not a disciplined person, but when I find something I love, I long to return to it. That thing becomes my breath. That's why I continue. Nothing I force myself to do out of obligation ever lasted long in my life. But everything I said I want to do took root inside me. Sometimes it's just a simple plan. Write just one thing today. Be alone for 15 minutes. Read your thoughts aloud. Or just look out the window and wait. These simple tasks give me direction within the chaos. And I realize that being directionless isn't from fatigue or fear of lack of options, but actually from being overwhelmed by too many options. Of course, there are tough sides too. Unfinished tasks, half-done projects, feelings of inadequacy. But I've started solving some things in my own way. For instance, I set challenges for myself. Sometimes I say, I'll make a video every day for a week. Or I start a task by saying, I'll only do this for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I usually keep going anyway. I sometimes use the Pomodoro technique, but a flexible version. Instead of 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest, it's more like take a break whenever you get bored, but return 3 times. Perhaps the most important thing is this. When living with ADHD, instead of being angry with yourself, you need to try to understand yourself. If you can't do anything on a given day, it doesn't mean you're lazy. It just means your system works differently. And the best part is, knowing this allows you to take a little more control of your life. I no longer appreciate myself only when I've finished a task, but also when I've put in the effort. ADHD can challenge you, but it doesn't define you. It's possible to work with it instead of trying to control it. None of these are deficiencies. They're just differences. Maybe you blamed yourself for not fitting into the world. But perhaps the point is that you are here to create another world. ADHD can be something that challenges you, but at the same time, it can also be a power you carry within you. A voice, a spark, a wave. And if you succeed in learning this, if you recognize it instead of suppressing it, if you talk to it instead of trying to silence it, maybe it will answer you. It will give you back your own superpower. Because maybe you're not broken, you're just too much. Too much color. Too much speed. Too much imagination. Too much honesty. And in this world, being too much, unfortunately, is often penalized. But not here. At Nightwave, being too much is simply depth. Nightwave is a reminder, a sign, that people who feel like you are not alone. Like waves, sometimes we will rise, sometimes we will calm down, but we will always flow together. Even in this darkness, like a vibration, silent, but constantly carrying something within us. And perhaps that's why you're here. Because you feel something similar. Because these words feel like they belong to you. If this video offered even a flicker of recognition or a moment of calm in its current, remember you're not navigating this alone. This is Nightwave. It may be dark out there, but in here, we find light together. If you have your own ways of living with a mind like ours, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience can help others here, in the quiet. I'll be waiting for you in the next wave. Whenever you're ready. Same time, same darkness, same shared understanding. Until then.